though my bra size written down looks like a national insurance number. But it is quite handy having big boobs if you're doing comedy, because if someone comes up to me after the show and says cracking set, I can pretend that they were talking about my jokes. But I do get catcalled occasionally. They usually shout things like, I don't remember that kid from Harry Potter having such massive tits. Although my personal favourite one was when I was walking down the street and someone shouted hemorrhoids at me from a car. I mean, I don't know how he knew, but he saved me a trip to the doctors. So I'm also an orphan. It's not sad or anything, my parents died ages ago, but I was never really an orphan until I woke up one day and started singing a jaunty song about how shit my life was. But one of the things that made it the hardest was that I'm also an atheist. I just don't think that if there was a benevolent creator, he would invent panic attacks. Or at least if he did, I think he'd make them burn calories in proportion to how stressful they are. Because it doesn't seem fair that I should be emotionally, mentally and physically exhausted and also not be able to buy anything on the high street. But yeah, I'm an atheist, and as you know, people like to say a certain thing to people who have just lost someone. We all know what that is. It's, oh, she's in a better place now. And it's like, well, we put her in a fire, Carol. But I'd still rather be there than this conversation. Yeah, so I'm sorry if you were expecting to hear like light-hearted jokes about Tinder. But if you think about it, planning a funeral can be a lot like a dating app. Because you have to decide if someone's hot or not. Unless you're Sweeney Todd, because he prefers Grindr. So the Queen's been having a bit of a rough year, hasn't she? I mean, for a millionaire. Well, first of all, she had to meet with Donald Trump, and there was this big scandal at the time because he touched her on the back when they were having dinner. And I mean, I don't know what everyone's so upset about. That's the most age-appropriate woman he's ever assaulted. And then she had to meet with our favourite person at the moment, Mr. Boris Johnson. And he got himself in a little bit of trouble by sharing details of their private conversation with the press. This was all over Facebook. The Queen put, sick of two-faced people, just me and my kids from now on. Prince Philip commented, inbox me, hun. And most recently, I saw this on Twitter. Princess Anne embarrassed the Queen by refusing to shake Trump's hand. I mein, what is she thinking? She should have done something respectable, like touch kids. So, aside from, you know, all of that, I'm also depressed. So yeah, just gonna throw that in there. It's okay. But I'm diagnosed with something called endogenous depression, which, when the doctor told me, I thought he said androgynous depression. And I thought, for fuck's sake, even my mental illness looks like a man. But what he explained to me was that what it actually means is that my brain is basically hardwired to be sad. So I was sad about that. But I went home and started doing a bit of research, and my mum was bipolar, so I thought, oh, well, maybe I could have that, I'll have a look into it. And I looked at the symptoms, I went back into my doctor and I said, what do you think? Do you think I could have this? And he said, well, I'm not really sure. You could be bipolar, but you could have just been drunk. And I said, well, you did tell me that I have incurable depression. I think it makes sense that I was drunk. And he said, well, actually, it's not really a good idea to drink alcohol when you have clinical depression because it's a depressant, it'll make you feel worse. And I was like, okay, fair enough. What can I do then? What about drugs? And he said, well, actually, with your family history of mental illness, it'd be a really bad idea to take any kind of drugs because you could actually trigger a manic episode. And I went, okay. So basically what you're saying is all I need to do is smash a load of cocaine and I'll cure my incurable depression. I've been having a physical health problem also. Oh no, I'm not going to do that. Am I going to do that? Yes, I have. I am going to do that. Sorry. Yes, I've been having a physical health problem because my set is just a non-stop laugh riot. This year, at the start of this year, I had to have some precancerous cells removed from my cervix, which is a bit scary, but because I am quite an anxious person, I decided to schedule my operation on the same day as I was doing a comedy competition in the hope that the fear of one would counterbalance the fear of the other, and it actually did work very well, because any time I got worried about one, I'd worry about the other, and I did. But in the end it was all fine. I went into my operation in the afternoon, the doctor was really nice, she laughed at all my jokes. At the end she told me that I did really well. I was just a bit concerned that when I got to the competition, they were going to want to put a camera in my vagina. I don't know if anybody who's not been to the gynecologist before, I can tell you exactly what it's like. It's a lot like the hairdressers, in that they make you sit in an uncomfortable chair and ask you questions about your holidays. The only difference being that at the end of the appointment, where they hold up a mirror and ask if you want a bit more off the top, it's an HD camera and you don't get a choice. So I'm going to leave you on one last little story. So, on top of all my other problems, I have been having a bit of a sexual problem. Has anybody heard of vaginismus? Yeah. Some people are nodding. For the people who don't know what that is, yeah, I know it sounds a bit like Christmas. And in a way it's quite similar to Christmas, and you're trying to get a lot into a small space and no one's enjoying themselves. But what it actually is where the muscles of your vagina tense up so that nothing can really get in. It's kind of like my body is its own chastity belt. I'm kind of like the reverse R. Kelly, because my mind's telling me yes, my body is telling me no, and also I'm not a child rapist.